All right, here we go. We're going to go ahead and study the difference between eustress and distress. So, eustress versus distress. What are the differences? What are the pros and cons? What are the okay? And potential uses. Like pros and cons. So, eustress is good stress. Distress would be bad stress. All right. So let's ask Gemini to clarify. The terms eustress and distress were coined by endocrinologist Hans Selye in 1975 to distinguish between different types of stress. The key difference lies not in the stressor itself, but in how we perceive and react to it. What is eustress? Eustress is often called good stress or positive stress. It is a constructive form of stress that is perceived as manageable, challenging, and even exciting. Eustress motivates and focuses energy, helping us to rise to a challenge and improve performance. Key characteristics of eustress: perception. The individual feels a sense of control and confidence in their ability to cope with the challenge. Feelings. It often creates feelings of excitement, exhilaration, and anticipation. Duration. It is typically short term and is seen as a means to an end. Outcome. It enhances focus, productivity, and performance and can lead to a sense of accomplishment and personal growth. Physical response. While it triggers the body's fight or flight response, the release of stress hormones is in smaller, manageable doses that don't overwhelm the system. Examples of eustress: starting a new job or project, working towards a deadline that you know you can meet, planning a wedding or vacation, training for a marathon or a sports competition, riding a roller coaster or watching a scary movie, or giving a speech to an audience you feel comfortable with. What is distress? Distress is what most people typically mean when they talk about stress. It is a negative form of stress that is perceived as overwhelming, unmanageable, and threatening. Distress can be debilitating and harmful to both mental and physical health. Key characteristics of distress: perception. The individual feels a lack of control and believes the stressor is beyond their coping abilities. Feelings. It often creates feelings of anxiety, fear, helplessness, and irritability. The duration of it can be short term, as in acute distress, or more often long term and chronic. Outcome: it impairs focus and performance, can lead to procrastination, and if left unchecked, can contribute to burnout, anxiety, and depression. Physical response: it leads to a prolonged and intense release of stress hormones, which can have detrimental effects on the body, such as headaches, fatigue, and muscle tension. Examples of distress include dealing with financial problems or overwhelming debt, navigating a difficult breakup or a high conflict relationship, experiencing a heavy workload with unrealistic deadlines, facing discrimination or harassment, losing a job or a loved one, chronic illness or health issues. Potential uses and applications. The distinction between eustress and distress has several important applications, particularly in psychology, management, and personal development. Psychology and therapy. The concepts help therapists and individuals understand that not all stress is bad. It provides a framework for identifying the source of a person's stress and developing strategies to reframe their perception of a stressor, ideally turning distress into eustress. Workplace management. Managers can apply these concepts to create a more productive and healthy work environment. Instead of overwhelming employees with distress inducing stressors, they can create challenges that foster eustress by setting clear, achievable goals, providing adequate resources, and offering opportunities for growth. Personal development and resilience. Understanding this difference empowers individuals to manage their own stress by adopting a positive mindset, building self efficacy, and developing coping skills. A person can learn to see a challenging situation as an opportunity for growth or eustress rather than a threat or distress. Education. Educators can apply these principles to create an engaging learning environment by setting assignments that are challenging but not overwhelming, They can introduce eustress that motivates students to learn and achieve rather than distress that leads to anxiety and poor performance. In conclusion, while both eustress and distress activate the body's stress response, their effects are vastly different. Eustress is a positive, motivating force that helps us grow, while distress is a negative, overwhelming force that can lead to physical and mental health issues. The key to a healthy and productive life is to not eliminate stress entirely, but to cultivate more eustress and effectively manage or mitigate distress. All right. And it's eustress versus distress. I've only done 5 minutes. Should I just do like, I'm just going to do a study session. All right. I should do like a study session for, but I'll break it up into categories. So I'll do like a study session for psychology, study session for physics, study session for business management leadership, study session for economics, study session for, what was it, sustainable cities, another one for architecture. Yeah, I'll break it up that way. Do longer study sessions. I need to look to see. So forgive me on this one, please. I'll go ahead and try to see if I can look up all my other psychology terms. Let's see if we can maybe get this up to like half an hour, an hour. Let's get like a chunkier, thicker episode, you know? All right, so next we got the id, the ego, and the superego. Those are three different types of variations in our personality. I'll delve deeper and clarify here. Watch. In Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the id, ego, and superego are the three fundamental components of the human personality. They are not physical parts of the brain, but rather theoretical constructs that work together to create our complex behaviors and drive our motivations. The id. Bum bum bum. That's an evil one. The id is the most primitive and instinctual part of the mind. It is present from birth and operates entirely on the pleasure principle, which demands immediate gratification of all desires, wants, and needs. It is the impulsive, unconscious part of our psyche that contains our basic urges for things like hunger, thirst, and sex. It doesn't care about logic, reality, or social rules. Its only goal is to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Freud famously described the id as a cauldron full of seething excitations. The superego. The superego is the moral compass of the personality. It develops in childhood, typically between the ages of 3 and 5, as we internalize the moral standards and ideals of our parents and society. It consists of two parts: the conscience, which punishes the ego with feelings of guilt when we do something wrong, and the ego ideal, which is an image of who we aspire to be. The superego's main function is to suppress the id's unacceptable urges and compel the ego to act in a moralistic, not just realistic way. The ego. The ego is the rational, reality-oriented part of the mind. Its job is to mediate between the conflicting demands of the id and the superego. Operating on the reality principle, the ego seeks to satisfy the id's desires in a realistic and socially acceptable manner. It is the conscious decision maker that considers the consequences of actions, often by compromising or delaying gratification to avoid negative outcomes. The ego is the part of our personality that we think of as our self. A healthy personality is one in which the ego is strong enough to effectively balance the id's desires, the superego's moral demands, and the realities of the external world. Sweet. That was the ego, the id, and the superego. Let's see, the neurotransmitters. I'm wondering if because like if I'm getting older, like I'm not 30, but is it because I'm getting older that I'm not able to memorize things? I don't have as much neuroplasticity as I used to. I think that could be one factor, but also the fact that I drank a shit ton of alcohol in my early 20s, and that could have fucked me up a little bit. Could be both. Could be kind of like a hybrid blend of both factors. Anyway, neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the body's chemical messengers that transmit signals between neurons or nerve cells and other target cells like muscles and glands. They are essential for all bodily functions from breathing and heart rate to mood and memory. How they work. Neurotransmitters work in a process called neurotransmission. When an electrical signal, an action potential, travels down a neuron's axon, it reaches the synapse, a tiny gap between the neurons. The signal triggers the release of neurotransmitters from the first neuron into this gap. These chemicals then travel across the synapse to bind to specific receptors on the next cell, much like a key fitting into a lock. This binding then either excites or inhibits the receiving cell, passing the message along. After the message is delivered, the neurotransmitters are either broken down by enzymes or reabsorbed by the original neuron in a process called reuptake, clearing the synapse for the next signal. You got different parts of the neuron here for the neurotransmitter. So the neurotransmitter is this little part up here. So we got the process of neurotransmission. The presynaptic neuron releases a neurotransmitter which activates receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. We have a neuron here floating between the receptors, synaptic vesicle. We got an impulse flowing through the synapse and the axons. We got the presynaptic neuron on the left side, postsynaptic neuron on the right side. The neurotransmitter will be coming from the presynaptic neuron to the receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. And then there's a voltage gated Ca channel, the calcium channel. I don't want to confirm that, I'm not totally sure. And then a neurotransmitter transporter. There's a picture of that there. All right. After the message is delivered, the neurotransmitters are either broken down by enzymes or reabsorbed by the original neuron in a process called reuptake, clearing the synapse for the next signal. Okay, we got that. Types and functions. Neurotransmitters are categorized by their effect on the receiving cell. Excitatory. These neurotransmitters encourage the next neuron to fire or send its own signal. On the contrary, we got inhibitory. These neurotransmitters decrease the likelihood that the next neuron will fire, essentially calming the system. Modulatory neurotransmitters. These are a bit different as they can affect a larger number of neurons at once and influence the effects of other neurotransmitters. Some of the most well-known neurotransmitters and their functions include dopamine, serotonin, glutamate, GABA or gamma aminobutyric acid, acetylcholine, and norepinephrine. Dopamine is a modulatory neurotransmitter involved in pleasure, motivation, motor control, and reward. Imbalances are associated with Parkinson's disease, which is an indicator of low dopamine, and addiction. Serotonin, an inhibitory neurotransmitter that helps regulate mood, sleep, appetite, and memory. It is often linked to feelings of well-being, and many antidepressants work by increasing serotonin levels in the brain. Glutamate, the most common excitatory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system. It is crucial for learning and memory. Excessive glutamate can be toxic to neurons. All right. GABA, or gamma aminobutyric acid. The main inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. It is vital for regulating anxiety, stress, and sleep. Many anti-anxiety medications and sedatives enhance the effects of GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. Acetylcholine. Acetylcholine plays a major role in muscle contractions and is involved in attention, memory, and learning. Low levels are associated with Alzheimer's disease. Then we have norepinephrine, both a neurotransmitter and a hormone. It is involved in alertness, arousal, and the body's fight or flight response. Oh, excuse me, I was holding it in. I should really stop vaping. God damn. Relieve stress a little bit. Helps you just take a deep breath. Obviously not deep breath of fresh air, but it is a deep breath regardless, and it helps just a little closer to homeostasis, you know? Not the natural way, obviously. Natural way is probably better, but better than being addicted to other shit, but still, be nice to wean myself off of that too. All right, we got hormones. Let's learn about some hormones. Hormones. All right. Hormones are the body's chemical messengers that are released by endocrine glands and travel through the bloodstream to a specific target cell or organ. Once they reach their destination, they bind to receptors, triggering a specific action or change. They are a key part of the endocrine system, which regulates many essential bodily functions. The endocrine system. In males, we have the pineal gland, pituitary gland, and hypothalamus, thyroid and parathyroid glands, the thymus, the pancreas, adrenal glands, and the testicle. And on the female, we have the pineal gland, pituitary gland, and hypothalamus, both in the same places. Thyroid and parathyroid glands, relatively same place. Thymus, same place. Pancreas, adrenal glands, all the same place. But the new ones here are ovary instead of testicles, and placenta, which in parentheses, this is specifically during pregnancy. What hormones do? Hormones play a critical role in coordinating and controlling a vast number of bodily processes. A small amount of a hormone can cause a significant response in the body. Their functions include growth and development, metabolism, reproduction and sexual function, mood and cognition, homeostasis, and stress response. Delving deeper into each of these, we're going to go ahead and tackle growth and development. Hormones like growth hormone control physical growth from childhood to adulthood. Metabolism. They can regulate how the body uses and stores energy from food. For example, insulin helps cells absorb glucose from the blood. Reproduction and sexual function. Hormones such as estrogen and testosterone are responsible for puberty, fertility, and the menstrual cycle. Mood and cognition. They influence mood, sleep-wake cycles, and memory. Melatonin, for example, regulates sleep. Homeostasis. They maintain the body's internal balance, including blood pressure, blood sugar levels, and body temperature. Stress response. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline prepare the body for fight or flight in stressful situations. Main types of hormones. Hormones are classified into three main types based on their chemical structure. 1, steroid hormones. 2, peptide hormones. And 3, amino acid derivatives. Steroid hormones. These are derived from cholesterol and are lipid soluble, meaning they can pass through cell membranes to bind to receptors inside the cell. Examples include the sex hormones estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, as well as stress hormones like cortisol. Peptide hormones. These are made of chains of amino acids and are water soluble, so they bind to receptors on the surface of the cell. They are the most common type of hormone. Examples include insulin, growth hormone, and oxytocin. And 3, amino acid derivatives. These are small hormones derived from single amino acids. They can be either lipid or water soluble. Examples include adrenaline and thyroid hormones, or thyroxine and triiodothyronine. Thyroxine and triiodothyronine. I don't know. That one's new for me. Let's do one more. Stress response cycle. What are we at? 19 minutes? Okay. Stress response cycle. So look up the stress response cycle, see what that means. What does it mean? The stress response cycle is a biological process that your body goes through in response to a perceived threat, whether it's a physical danger or a modern day psychological stressor like a work deadline. The cycle has a clear beginning and middle, but for many people, the end is often missed, leading to chronic stress and its negative health effects. The stages of the stress response cycle. The stress response cycle can be broken down into three stages as described in Hans Selye's general adaptation syndrome. One, the alarm stage or the fight or flight response. Two, the resistance stage. And three, exhaustion stage. In the alarm or fight or flight response stage, this is the immediate reaction to a stressor. The amygdala, as part of your brain responsible for fear, sends a signal to your hypothalamus, which activates your parasympathetic nervous system. This triggers a cascade of physiological changes. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are released. Heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate increase. Muscles tense up and blood flows redirected to the major muscles and away from non essential systems like digestion. The body is now in a state of heightened alert, ready to either fight the threat, flee from it, or freeze in place. Ooh, freezing, that's usually not the good one. Plain dead? Is that what you're doing? Maybe that's why we don't include it in the fight or flight. Fight, flight, or freeze. I'm like, no freezing. you're gonna just die. Don't freeze. All right. Two, resistance stage. If the stressor persists, the body tries to adapt and cope with the ongoing stress. The sympathetic nervous system remains active, but it is not as intense as the initial alarm stage. You may feel wired but tired and experience symptoms like irritability, poor concentration, and frustration. Your body is trying to maintain balance, but it's still running on elevated stress hormones. Hmm. All right, that's good to know. And then three, exhaustion stage. This stage occurs when the stressor is prolonged and the body's resources are for coping are depleted. It's the point where chronic stress sets in. Without a clear end to the cycle, the body remains in a state of hyperarousal, which can lead to serious health problems like chronic fatigue and burnout, anxiety and depression, weakened immune system, heart disease and high blood pressure, and other digestive issues. The importance of completing the cycle. The key insight from researchers like Emily and Amelia Nagoski is that simply removing the stressor isn't enough to complete the cycle. Your body still needs to physically process the stress that has built up. In our modern world, we rarely have the opportunity to physically fight off the lion or run away from the predator. Instead, we just finish a stressful meeting and move on to the next task, leaving our bodies in a state of unresolved stress. Completing the stress response cycle involves doing something that signals to your body that the threat has passed and it is now safe to return to a calm state. It is a physiological shift, not just a mental one. How to complete the stress response cycle. You can intentionally engage in activities that mimic that mimic the natural ways our bodies would release stress. Physical activity. This is one of the most effective ways. Running, dancing, yoga, or even just a brisk walk helps your body physically discharge the stress hormones and tension. Deep breathing, consciously slowing your breathing signals to your nervous system that you are safe. Techniques like box breathing or the 4-7-8 method can be very effective. Like breathe in 4 seconds, breathe out 7 seconds, breathe in 8. Is it in 8 or is it backward? I don't know. Laughter. A good, hearty belly laugh is a powerful way to release tension and trigger the release of endorphins. Crying. Crying is a natural and healthy emotional release that helps to flush stress hormones from the body. Affectionate touch. A long hug, at least 20 seconds, or physical contact with a loved one releases oxytocin, a hormone that promotes a sense of safety and calm. Petting an animal can also have this effect. Positive social interaction. Casual but friendly interactions with others can send a signal to your brain that the world is a safe place. Creative expression. Engaging in creative activities like painting, writing, or playing music can help you process and express big emotions, effectively completing the cycle. All right. And then we have other notes here. Make sure to regulate, don't escalate. Don't ignore mistakes, but focus on successes. and attend to the negative, but prioritize the positive. I might actually transfer that to my journal. I like that. I'll save that in there. Then, okay, that's just an idea for local links, social app, and then Infinity Core support groups. Okay, and that's for employees, just providing support groups and anonymous support groups for employees to basically just talk about issues, whether it be Zoom meetings or in-person meetings, whatever it might be, just so people can feel like they have a group of supportive people that they can relate to and work similar jobs or the same job, and so a group that they can feel connected to and talk to, and then they feel stressed out, and something to convert that distress into eustress, right? So, doing good things. 25 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and end it here because that's all the psychology notes I have for today. Yeah, I'll go ahead and end it there. And but thanks for watching. I'll go ahead and transfer these other notes to my journal and then wherever they need to go. But I'll go ahead and pause it for now. A little unstructured of a video this time, but that's all right. Still working on it.